You sit down to do one simple thing, and within seconds, without deciding to, your mind has already slipped somewhere else. You can't finish a page. You can't watch a video without opening another tab. You can't even sit through a conversation without your hand drifting toward your phone. And somewhere along the way, you started to believe something quietly cruel about yourself. That you are lazy. That you are broken. That something is wrong with you. You are not broken. Your attention was stolen, deliberately, systematically, by some of the most powerful companies on Earth. And by the end of this video, I am going to show you the exact number that proves it happened, not just to you, but to almost everyone alive right now. So let's start with the lie you keep telling yourself, that you should just be able to focus, and that failing to is a personal weakness. It isn't. Because to understand why your focus collapsed, you first have to understand what attention actually is, and it is nothing like what you think. Your attention is not a faucet you can just turn on. It is a spotlight. At any given moment, your brain is being flooded with millions of pieces of information, far more than it could ever handle. So it does something ruthless. It chooses a tiny sliver of all of that to shine a light on, and it throws almost everything else into the dark. That spotlight, that narrow beam of conscious focus, is one of the most limited and precious resources you own. You only get so much of it, and here is the crucial part. It did not evolve to stay still. For almost all of human history, the thing that could kill you was the new thing, the rustle in the grass, the sudden movement at the edge of your vision, the flash of color that might be a predator or might be your next meal. So your brain evolved a hair-trigger reflex. The instant something novel or moving appears, your attention is yanked toward it automatically before you can even think. This was not a flaw. For thousands of years, it was the single most important survival tool you had. An interruptible mind was a mind that stayed alive. Now sit with the horror of that for a second. You are walking around with an ancient brain built to be instantly hijacked by anything new. And then we invented a rectangle of glass, whose entire purpose is to generate something new every half a second forever. But before we get to the glass rectangle, let's kill the second lie. The one where you tell yourself, it's fine, I can multitask. You cannot. Nobody can. It is one of the most stubborn myths about the human brain, and it is simply false. Your brain physically cannot consciously focus on two demanding things at the same time. What it actually does is switch. It rapidly toggles back and forth between the tasks, and it happens so fast that it creates the illusion of doing both at once. But every single one of those switches comes with a hidden price. Scientists call it the switch cost. Every time you flick from your work to a text and back, your brain has to disengage from the first task, load up the rules and context of the second, then dump those and reload the first. It is like slamming a car from drive into reverse over and over. It is slow, it is clumsy, and it quietly burns an enormous amount of mental fuel. Studies have found that this kind of constant switching can make you measurably slower and more error-prone at both tasks. You feel productive, busy, engaged. You are actually doing everything worse. And it gets more insidious than just wasted time because of something a researcher named Sophie Leroy discovered. She called it attention residue. Here is the idea. When you switch away from one task to another, a part of your attention does not come with you. It stays stuck on the thing you just left. So when you finally pull yourself away from your phone and back to your work, you are not actually all the way there. A piece of your mind is still lingering on that last message, that last video, that last notification. You are operating at partial capacity, dragging a fog of half-finished thoughts behind you. Now think about how many times a day you switch. A notification here, a quick glance there, a little scroll while the page loads. Every one of those leaves a smear of residue. And when you stack thousands of them on top of each other, day after day, you end up in a state where you are almost never fully present on anything. You are perpetually, permanently, partially somewhere else. Which brings us to the number I promised you. A scientist named Gloria Mark has spent decades doing something painstaking. She and her team put timers on people and measured exactly how long they could stay focused on a single screen before switching to something else. Back in 2004, the average was about 2.5 minutes. Not long, but workable. A few years later, when they measured again, it had dropped to 75 seconds. And when they measured in recent years, the average attention span on a screen had collapsed to around 47 seconds. 47 seconds. That is how long the typical person can now look at one thing before their mind pulls them somewhere else. Your attention span did not gently decline. It fell off a cliff. And that was not an accident. Because here is what actually happened to you. Remember that ancient reflex, the one that automatically yanks your attention toward anything new and moving? An entire industry figured out how to pull that trigger on purpose. Every app on your phone is engineered by teams of brilliant people to hijack that exact survival instinct, the infinite scroll that never gives you a stopping point. The little red notification badges colored the exact shade of red that signals danger. The autoplay that starts the next thing before you can decide to leave. The rewards that arrive unpredictably like a slot machine, so you keep pulling the lever. Each one is a tiny, precise tug on your spotlight. And you did not do this once. You did it hundreds, maybe thousands of times a day for years. And that is the part nobody warns you about. Because your brain is a learning machine. When you train it thousands of times a day, that focus should constantly be interrupted, that every few seconds there should be a new hit of novelty. It learns that lesson perfectly. Fragmentation stops being something that happens to you. It becomes your default setting. You did not just get distracted, you practiced distraction until you became an expert at it. You rewired your own brain to flinch away from focus. And this is why it feels so physically awful to concentrate now. Have you noticed that sitting with one slow, boring task can feel almost painful? That a moment of silence in a checkout line is unbearable and your hand reaches for your phone before you have even decided to? That is not weakness. That is a trained reflex. Your brain has been conditioned to expect a hit of stimulation every few seconds, so when that hit does not come, it generates a feeling of discomfort, an itch, that it has taught you to scratch with your phone. You are not choosing to pick it up. You are flinching. And the scariest part of all is that this new fragmented state feels completely normal. You do not walk around feeling like something precious was taken from you. You just feel a low, constant restlessness, a vague inability to settle that you have started to assume is just who you are. You have forgotten what it felt like to fall so deeply into a book, or a thought, or a piece of work that hours pass without you noticing. That state, deep focus, is where your best thinking, your creativity, your genuine learning, and honestly a lot of your sense of meaning actually lives. And it has been quietly slipping out of reach, 147-second window at a time. So here is the truth I want you to leave with, because it is the opposite of the cruel story you have been telling yourself. You are not lazy, you are not broken. Your attention system was working exactly as designed. The problem is that the most powerful companies in human history spent billions of dollars learning precisely how to pull its strings, and then they pulled them all day, every day, for years, until a fractured mind became the water you swim in. But there is something genuinely hopeful hidden inside that. Because if your inability to focus is not a permanent flaw baked into who you are, but a habit that was trained into you, then it is also a habit that can be trained back out. Attention is not a fixed trait, it is a muscle. It has been weakened deliberately by an environment built to weaken it, but muscles can be rebuilt. The first and most important step, though, is not an app or a trick or a productivity hack. It is simply this: to see the strings, to notice, in the moment, that the pull you feel is not you, it is the design. Because you cannot cut a string you cannot see. And now, you can see them. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more videos like this, click subscribe. Your brain didn't want you to know, but now you do.